Hello, today we'll be going over the images for mods and the sprites that you can make using, well, a method Zark came up with. It works actually pretty well for what it is, all things considering, but you know, it's more advanced than it sometimes needs to be, for lack of better words. Anyway, I will today show you how images for mods work. You begin with a document that either I or Zark or somebody else made. Basically mine is based on that of Zark, but it's a little bit more enhanced with additional features I found useful during my time making mods with it. Basically what I have devised is a grid system. I'll actually show you the every 10th coordinates. So it's basically X, Y, and again for this one, I didn't do all the things, but again, it basically will show you the way modules are laid out. In my previous video, you may have remembered that the Y and the height and the width showed you what it was for the size of the module, and I talked a little bit about the coordinates of placing guns in said module with the dividing of 16 by 16. The reason why it's 16 by 16 is because each of these squares is 16 by 16 pixels. So if you say 5 by 5, or if you say 0.5 for the location of Y and X in a module for a like the center of a barrel, you will find that it's exactly right there. Because right now, you know, of course you say that's obvious, but if you divide 8 by 16, you will find that that's exactly the same. You know, that's how you find it. And you can just have any size module you want, with one caveat: you cannot have a module that is larger than 64 by 64, and it cannot be animated that way as well, by the way. And next up is this palette. Basically Zark, he wants the style of the game to remain what it is. So as a as a precaution, he just said, look, this is what I want you to use in the game to make your graphics, to make your armor, your steel, your paints, your ropes, your copper, your UI, your you know, everything else. I did add this one in because I use titanium in my expansion mod, and I base it off intuition mostly, but basically just a color palette which you can select colors from should you choose to adhere to well established everything. Because there are a few people on the Steam Workshop that have made or are going to make total conversions, and they will just wreck this and just do something they want. Not that I mind, but I'm just saying that it's a thing. Well, last time we had a mod that we were doing stuff with. Right now we're just doing something else. This is one of my mods that I'm busy doing right now. It will not be released by the time you see this video. Don't worry, you're getting a sneak preview of the mod. But basically what you will start doing is, well, if you want to do it easy, just start in the left corner and basically just make a module. You don't actually need to code before you make a module, although you can code before you make a module. I find that designing first and then making a module works best for me, but maybe you want something else. So as you see, I'm busy making buildings. This is my commerce mod. It used to be part of the main mod, my expansion, but I'm planning to make a full-fledged economy thing on the side with some city buildings, some town buildings. I'm still working on that. Some factories, you know, the typical things you would see in a city even though we don't get to build cities in the game, we can at least dream, and using my mods, that's something that will happen. But okay, so as you see, I made some graphics. These are really simple, and now you're wondering, okay, so I just do this, but I want my shadows, I want my bumps, I want my metal looking things to be metal and shiny. So instead of making them shiny on the base graphic sprites, because when you make this into a proper thing, you basically just make this into a .png and into a sprite sheet. In your folder.image, your images folder in the mod. Hold on, let me just pull up a mod from this one actually. So in my commerce mod, as you can see, there's a bunch of things in here. I'm still working on making this a little bit neater, but that's because it used to be part of my main mod, and thus I just literally copy paste everything and just remove what I didn't use. Basically, you start by making images. For sprites and the textures, they have to be 1024 by 1024, no less, no greater, because the game expects that. And if you give it something it does not expect, like a JPEG or a different file format than it expects for music or sound or whatever, it will not accept it, and you will either get nothing or you will get crashes. Crashes in this game, as I said, you get red text error and nothing will happen. As you see, I have a few pictures here right now, or images. You can actually make monster nest images, and you have to name them the same as their name in the file. Just copy what already exists in the base game and you'll probably find your way out. It's really simple, but it's just little things you gotta puzzle to find. So basically, this is basically this, but then older. Well, it's basically the same as what I'm working on, but this one is a little bit older. And well, that's about it really. Nothing much to say other than they're just things, modules, loose modules without code in theory. So let's go back to my work in progress. So as I said, what about the lighting system? Because the way lights work in the game, they actually show you the reflections, the shininess. If you look closely, it's not really that obvious, but it is there. And the lighting is actually dynamic. So we go to the next layer. It's basically the bitmap, the bump map. It's where you make your things have a thing that reacts to light. So you see these funky looking things? Those show you what direction they're facing. Right now it might not be much sense to you, but we'll just go over them. Because I in the past have had a file loss for my mods and my files and my 2 terabyte drive where I had everything. I had to slapdash things again, but I will go over you with how this works in real time. So I just made this a little bit transparent. That works the best. I think there's only one way to do this really, but so let's just disable this layer and let's just go do the shiny layer. So shiny, what do you expect shiny to be? Well, it is literally what it is, the layer that handles shiny things, but it also handles one other thing. It handles the background, recessed things. If you have holes or things that need to be, deeper slightly, then you need to just use the color. Right now it's really faint, but trust me, in the documents it's right there, and normal is just the base color. So let us make us shiny things. So not much of this is ready, but some parts are. So basically, if you say, oh, this is shiny, just make metal shiny. And you can just say, oh well, these parts right here is recessed. You don't need to follow the image itself. Zark does this sometimes, but sometimes he does not. Not really clear about this, but basically you can make things like darkness or black holes, like, well, black holes, not literal ones, but you know, it's basically just hidden things make look more recessed than they actually are. And as a result, any shapes, so if you make, say, like bend this so that it would be like, oh, this part is facing right, the lighting will actually not be able to effectively reach it. But if you have like an external light source that is near it or in front of it, it will actually do stuff with that. So that's really neat the way Zark actually made his engine work. But it's something you gotta consider, because you can make everything in high detail, but you don't really need to most of the time, although it helps. So in these few things, there's not a lot that can make it shiny, although these pins holding the things together, these tents, these shacks, and they need little bits of pieces of metal to hold them together. So you could just say, oh well, let's make those shiny, and shiny they will be. So then we move on to the next layer. So this one is the horizontal layer. Everything points itself correctly, of course. Now, you may notice I'm using a program called GIMP. It is possible to not use this program, but you'll need to use a program that uses additive layers, because the way this works, it adds all the layers together. So this color that it makes, it's basically a combination of every color that you've used. So only blue, or blue and green, or blue and, you know, it uses all of those to make whatever it needs to. So you just gotta take note of that. You can actually, someone, for instance me, could make a color palette that you can use to make things. So you would basically be using this as your palette instead of what these are. So you can just use this so you can make a shiny thing. But it's a really convoluted way of doing things, so I don't suggest to do it. It's just putting more effort into something that doesn't need it. Just do it that way. Again, I'm not really showing this correctly, aren't I? I've been doing these recordings in succession, so it's also my first time making videos in a long while. So I'm just gonna say just making thing. So you're just saying like, oh, let's make it like bend that way, so the light will be hitting that from the left, and so left, basically this will be hitting the right. You can actually swap these around and do some cool looking things with them. It's really up to you if you like the style, so you just experiment again, as I said. But I'm not gonna do much of these, but I'm just gonna do a few examples. So let's say I am facing this one slightly right. So the way I imagine this is this one is 90 degrees. No. This one is 90 degrees. This one is 45 degrees. So that the way you imagine it is a little bit like that. But it's really up to you, although It would have been nice for Zark to make a indicator of how much percentage based it was. It would have saved me some guessing, and it will probably save you some guessing if you ever decide to say like, oh, let's follow this example and do it like that. So let's just, because we don't have all the time in the world, let's just do some stuff. So let's say this part is curled up a little bit top. So we say it's like this curtain is hanging towards the inside, and this one is pointing towards the sky. So it's a lot of clicking this, so you don't. This is actually the part that takes the most time in modding, in my experience. The making of textures and the working on them to make them look pretty in light. So we're almost done with these two little tents. After we're done, I will show you what happens, well, what the result is. Not in game, because I don't actually have programming for these, but rest assured they will be shiny. But shiny in the normal way, not as metal, but you know, as in reflective and capable of receiving light. So after you're done making all of those, you can actually see the way it works for where light comes from and how it hits it from the right and the left. And yeah, I think I may have, no. Yeah, I accidentally did them the other way around. Oh well. It's not a biggie. Just looks weird. But basically that's how it works. It's just make some sprites, and it's really just easy as just going around and drawing lines and making things happen. Of course you can just do some detail, but my first module I ever made was just this. It was just like, oh, let's make some bar-like shape things and some cannonballs and some barrels and crates and stuff. Just don't overexert yourself. If you have some skill in designing, that's good, but you don't really need it. And well, the rest is up to you, really. Oh yeah, last time I didn't really finish that little part about the image or the text that we were doing. So going back to the mod, you notice I don't actually have any strings, and as a result the text was red. Now you can remedy this by making a new file that is EM, or the language, first few letters followed by proper and basically what you have to do is just module and then the name. So let's say the name of the module is the flag cannon, and the flag cannon CS, and you just have to just copy paste them, and then after the is you say what it is, and after is will actually appear in the game. It can accept any type of character. If you're wondering about translations and that type, it will accept anything, but you need to make sure that your English is English and your French is French, and etc. So let's say up can of flag, and after that you will need to make a mod description. I have done this enough times that I can actually remember this out of my head straight from not doing it a while even. So, and this will just show correctly in the game with this as its name and this as its description without seeing the red text, and everything will be fine. That wasn't just a little addition to the last mod. that you need to pay attention to. So I hope this will be enough to get you started in modding. It's a little bit all over the place, I agree. If you have any questions, feel free to do it in the video description, or if you guys have too much, I will just do a Q&A.